What's up, Islanders? Welcome back as we take a quick trip across Turtle Island, known to a lot of us as North America. I had a chance last week to travel to British Columbia and to Alberta, Canada, where I picked up this spiffy hat and a few more things. I hope you'll follow along for this really quick adventure as we check out Kelowna, British Columbia, down through the Okanagan Valley to Osoyoos and the Nk'MIP Winery, which is the first Indigenous winery in Canada, and then across British Columbia's boundary country through Canada's smallest city, Greenwood Bc, and into Grand Forks, British Columbia, where we got to check out Cascade Falls, which is super cool and a little bit off the beaten path. On from there, we went back to Kelowna, and I stopped in Calgary to visit with a dear friend and to check out some cool sights I hope you'll enjoy. I don't know about the rest of you Islanders, but when I go on vacation, I have two priorities: good food and good booze. And when you hit up the Okanagan, you're looking for some great ciders and some great wine. We chose to take the Wicked Wine Tour West Kelowna Tour. Thank you for the tip, Barbette. And we loved it. Unfortunately, I loved it so much that I don't really have a lot of photos or video, but I am going to show you a couple scenes of beautiful Lake Okanagan as seen from our wine tour. I'm also going to post some of the details of the tour we took below, and I'll try to pop some pictures in now so you can see a little bit more of what we saw. Really quick before I forget, I want to tell you guys how amazing our tour guide Bella was. It was her birthday, and she still went hard, went overtime, and really gave everybody on our tour a great experience. So thank you so much, Bella. Of course, we weren't satisfied with just looking at Lake Okanagan from the air and from a wine tour. We wanted to check out the Kelowna Waterfront for ourselves. And what we found was a beautiful but really hot day. The highs while we were in Kelowna were about 34 degrees in the shade. Let's take a look at some of the gorgeous scenery from the Kelowna Public Marina in downtown Kelowna, British Columbia. If you're ever at the Kelowna Waterfront, I highly recommend taking a walk out onto the docks of the marina. You'll get a much better view of the lake and also of how the city hugs the lakeshore. Standing here at the Kelowna Marina in beautiful Kelowna, British Columbia, wondering if we will see Ogopogo this morning. much as I love a beautiful waterfront, I'm a city girl at heart. So we ventured into downtown Kelowna to check out some of the sights and to hit up the Okanagan Spirits Distillery. Unfortunately, once again, I was so excited by some of that quality booze tasting that I didn't take a lot of photos or video. Really want to show you this really amazing bar they have inside the tasting studio, which I did manage to take a photo of before we started drinking. I've also ordered a number of their craft spirits to be delivered to my house next week, so it's entirely possible that a future video will include a tasting. We can't move on from the Okanagan Spirits Distillery Company before we talk about how incredibly knowledgeable and friendly the staff are about all the local ingredients that they're using in their products, plus the local environment. They gave us a great travel tip for earlier in the week. So now that we've had a little bit of booze and a little bit of food, let's take a look at some night shots of beautiful Kelowna, BC, as taken from our hotel, the Royal Anne Hotel on Benson Street. Now, this is not a super fancy hotel, but it was reasonably affordable and in a great walkable part of the city. Would absolutely recommend this for anybody who doesn't need to be given a bathrobe everywhere they go.
Great view tonight of Benson Street and Water Street here in beautiful downtown Kelowna, where it is very hot. The street is closed to car traffic tonight, which is beautiful. Thinking maybe hitting up a pub.
So enough with the boozy talk, at least for now. I was super excited to discover that Sonny's Diner in downtown Kelowna lists as one of their sides a flight of bacon. I absolutely could not resist giving this a try. And the atmosphere at Sonny's is second to none. I totally recommend checking out this really cool old style diner where I also found some lighting inspiration for my future studio. Next up, we grabbed one of my cousins at the airport in Kelowna and headed to Grand Forks via Osoyoos, which, if you just looked at the map, you know is not the most direct route. And quick, sort of, stop in Osoyoos allowed us to check out the Nk'MIP winery and also the Cultural Interpretation Center, where we got to learn about Canada's first Indigenous winery and all of the culture and history of the region. Once again, no footage of the wine, but definitely a little bit from the Interpretation Center, including a little something you might spy in the corner that had me a little, shall we say, rattled. From Osoyoos, we headed to Grand Forks with a quick stop in Greenwood, British Columbia, Canada's smallest city. This location was highly recommended to us by one of the staff at the Okanagan Spirits Distillery, and we really appreciated having it pointed out to us because it's a bit of a blink and you miss it kind of thing if you're barreling along at 80 kilometers an hour on a backwoods highway. Before I show you a couple shots of Greenwood, I do want to tell you a bit of a story. So on our road trip, we were flagged down by a young man wearing a bike helmet and pulled over around the same time as a lovely lady from Canada Post, while noticing that a few motor cars just went barreling by. it turned out that his sister was passing out, likely from exhaustion, although the paramedics did eventually attend to her, so we're not 100% sure what the situation was. But I just want to really encourage people to remember, especially if you're from the city and you're kind of used to ignoring the crazy around you, that if you see a kid flagging you down on a rural highway, that's a really good sign to stop, because at the very least they're warning you of a hazard up ahead, and otherwise they probably need help. So I just want to put that out there, because I was personally really disheartened to see how many people just kept going, and I know that the Canada Post delivery person who also stopped really acknowledged the fact that we had stopped, which sort of left me really concerned about what is happening out there and the level of kindness and empathy we're showing other human beings. So that's a bit of story time, and with that, back to Greenwood, BC.
Halfway between Osoyoos and Grand Forks, British Columbia, you find Greenwood, Canada's smallest town.
Clearly, I was a little bit tired by that point with our road trip, since I couldn't tell the difference between a city and a town anymore. I'd also point out, for anybody who noticed, the very large Chevy Suburban in the background. That was what I somehow managed to rent myself for the weekend, which is a story for perhaps another day. Greenwood is a picturesque, essentially one-street town. I don't even think there was a stoplight, but super pretty, super like nostalgic of that kind of Wild West era. The architecture is very similar to what you see in sort of like a Western movie, and definitely worth a stop if you are on your way between Kelowna and Grand Forks. We did eventually make it to our final destination of Grand Forks, British Columbia. We were there to celebrate my cousin's wedding, and while I am very happy to have a new member of our family, I really didn't want to invade the specialness of that day by adding it to this video. So instead, I'm going to show you some footage of a hike we took earlier in the day. We ended up hiking about 5 kilometers to the Cascade Falls, which came highly recommended by my cousin, who now lives in the area.
Cascade Falls, just outside Grand Forks, British Columbia. There seems to be an easy way in, but we took the less easy way in.
One of the advantages of taking that 5-kilometer hike, however, across some pretty steep terrain, was that we got to see some parts of the falls and the river that are not visible from the roads or from the main trail.
The view of Cascade Falls from the highway, in case you're not up for the hike.
I had one more stop on my Western Canada adventure as I headed to Calgary, Alberta, a city that I was lucky enough to become an honorary citizen of a number of years ago through a white hatting ceremony. I didn't take my hat with me this time, but I did pick up a couple things to add to my Western repertoire. So let's take a look at that piece of the adventure. Yahoo! One of the not-to-be-missed landmarks in Calgary, Alberta has to be the Wonderland statue at the Bow Tower. So, as soon as I was checked into my hotel, I made a beeline for the statue, along with my friend Katrina, who was nice enough to show me around her new hometown. I was pleasantly surprised to discover that you actually can get inside the statue, and also that once inside you get a really great look at Calgary through the eyes of the young girl. couldn't resist a sort of immature photo of me picking the nose of the statue before we went on to check out some other public art and also the new library in downtown Calgary. I'll insert some of the photos. I was pleasantly surprised to discover that you actually can take the C train across downtown Calgary for free on the weekends. Definitely something I'd love to see Toronto emulate. Anyway, as my change in headgear might indicate, we were off to one of our last stops of the day where we did some shopping. We were off to Stephen Street, or 7th Avenue, which is a pedestrian-friendly section of the city. Walking along Stephen Street, where I promise you I did not want a camera out. I'm just not ready to be that YouTuber yet. We stumbled across Lammle's Western Gear, and you know, sometimes you just gotta let one of your friends be a bad influence. I totally missed out on being at the Stampede this year with Kevin Costner as the Grand Marshal because I am a huge fan of the Yellowstone franchise. So I was pretty excited to find some Yellowstone gear along with my new boots, which, let's face it, are as big as my head, that I am super excited to be wearing throughout the cold seasons this year. Following a short but expensive trip to Lammle's, we headed off to dinner where I decided that I really wanted to try a Caesar while I was in the city where the Caesar was invented. For my American friends, think Bloody Mary but with clamato juice instead of tomato juice. Arthur Cat left me for the rest of the night to go home to her family. I was able to sneak in one last drink. In Calgary, I tried a smoked old-fashioned.
I'm getting me Nk'MIP.
Smoked cocktails are really big in Calgary right now, and I highly recommend that you give them a try when you're traveling out there. Going to the bar by yourself may seem intimidating, but this is where we get back to the heart of what this channel is about. I want you to know that you can travel with your family, you can travel to visit friends, or you can travel by yourself. And I hope that this little snippet of my trip out west from last week inspires you to go see part of the world, whether you're traveling in a big group or you're traveling by yourself. I've been everywhere from Machu Picchu to middle of nowhere, Canada and the US, by myself, with other people, and sometimes when I'm working. It is a great way to expand your horizons, to find new inspiration, and in my case, I'm thinking the next thing that's going to show up on that easel is going to be inspired by the incredible landscapes that we see all across Canada from coast to coast. Join me again in 2 weeks for another adventure, and until then, Islanders, just please keep trying new things.